What's up, you guys? Sean Ross Sapp. Welcome to Fightful. Here with a name, how could you not know her? She is the queen of extreme. You've seen her in ECW, you've seen her in WWE, in TNA. You saw her on NXT recently, and you can see her on her own channel here on YouTube, as well as the Eyes Up Here podcast. We've got Francine. How you doing?
I am doing well. Thank you for having me. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. This is an interview I've been after for quite a while.
We've kind of been playing tag.
Yes.
I would see you somewhere. You'd say, let's sit down. I'd say, well, come back. Then you'd come back and you would say, oh, you had a line. I had to leave. And then I would come look for you and you'd be gone. So it wasn't in the stars for us until today.
A note to aspiring media members that I don't always see them abide by at conventions. Like, they don't have to give you media access there. Do not ruin people's lines. That is a good way to make vendors upset at you when the person that they brought in is sitting there with a microphone in their face for 20 minutes. So, wait until a downtime. It's just, these days, there's not much downtime at those things. Like, you all stay busy.
Yeah, it's been really, really good for us, for ECW alum. We still get a good, warm reception everywhere we go. And I am beyond shocked at that at this point, because it's been years and years and years. And you still hear the ECW chants everywhere, which blows my mind. So I'm very grateful. Let's make that perfectly clear. Very, very grateful for the reception, but it's kind of like I think that old school crowd will always support us. If we're 100 years old, they're still going to be there. And what's nice is, because of the WWE, whether it was like the network or Netflix or whatever's going on, they're still showcasing ECW talent, whether it's past shows or, like you said, NXT bringing us back. So ECW is never going to die anytime soon. It's got a good shelf life, and I'm really happy that I'm a part of that. So,
speaking of, you appeared on the NXT show at the ECW Arena, looking like a TV star per usual. How was that process for you?
Well, here's what happened. It was a very very complicated process. I received a phone call, and it's funny, like, all the boys say the same thing. It's like, anytime 203 popped up on our phone, we're always like, oh, it's WWE calling. And 9 times out of 10, it's never them, right?
Yeah.
So it was like, I don't know if it was a Monday or a Tuesday night, 9 o'clock, which for me is late, because I'm an early bird. I'm in bed by 10 every night. So a phone call comes in, and it's a 203 area code. I pop myself. I go, oh, and nobody's in the room with me. I'm popping. I go, WWE's calling me, blah, blah, blah. And I ignore the call, because I'm like,
oh no.
Well, it's probably a telemarketer or something. So I'm just like, I ignore it. Not even 5 minutes go by, and a text message comes through, and it's John Cone. And I knew John from the fake ECW in 2006 when I worked there, and he was a referee at the time. Well, now he's talent relations. So he moved on up that ladder. And I always liked John. He was such a nice man. Got along with him great. Really, really sweet man. But he sends me this text message, and he's like, hey, Francine, it's John Cone. And then he explains who he is. And I'm just like, I know who you are. I remember. But all he said was something like, we'd like to know if you would like to make an appearance for NXT. And he doesn't give the background on it's like an ECW team, but he does go on to say you will be the guest referee for that Lola Vice and Jada Parker, that girl's hardcore match. So I look at the text and I'm like, this is a rib. Who's ribbing me? 9:07 at night, I'm going to kill somebody. Like, who's ribbing me, right? And I wrote back, hi, John, hope all is well. And then I wrote, why me? Because I didn't get the connection, because he didn't explain the whole thing to me.
Sure.
Then he does. And he sends all these text messages, and he's explaining how they're going to the arena. And it's like an ECW night kind of throwback vibe and all this stuff. And so anybody who follows me knows the problems that I've had with my stomach. And I've had, like, between my 2 kids, which were 2 C-sections, on top of that, I had 3 surgeries to try to repair my abdomen. And it never got repaired. And so now, like, for the longest time, I wasn't allowed to do any core strength. So I'm very weak in my abdomen section. So I said to my husband, I was like, they want me to do this referee thing. And he's like, how are you going to get down with those girls and count? He goes, they're good and they're quick. And I was like, ooh. And I'm old and I'm not quick. So there's going to be a problem with that. So I text John and I'm like, listen, I have to talk to my husband. I said, can I get back to you tomorrow? Because I didn't want to say no right away.
Of course. Yeah.
And he was just like, no problem. Sleep on it. Get back to me. Your name came up in the writer's room. We would love to have you, blah, blah, blah. So I wake up the next morning and I'm just like, I don't think I can do this. So I text him back and I was just like, here's the deal. And I just told him what I told you. I said, I don't want to look slow and methodical at this stage on television.
Sure.
I said, I think that's a bad look for me. I said, I'm going to have to pass, but I appreciate the offer. And he writes back, we want you here. We will figure something out. And I go, okay. And he's like, so consider yourself booked, keep that date open, blah, blah, blah. I go, okay. So 2 weeks go by and it's a night before the arena show. So I call Guido and I'm like, can we meet up? Because I didn't want to go by myself and I'm not the best driver at night. And I was like, can we meet up? He's like, yeah, no problem. So I had my ride set up, but I still didn't know what was going on. So in the meantime, Johnny Russo, who is head writer. Yeah. He texted me before this and he's just like, can't wait to meet you. We're so happy you're coming in. Very nice. And I'm just like, oh, this is great. So excited. But I didn't know what I was doing. I went to 2 conventions in that 2-week time span. And I had gotten laryngitis and I lost my voice. So I had no voice. So I'm like, okay, whatever I end up doing, hopefully they won't want me to talk. Well, night before, I get a text message from John Cohn. Did you talk to Johnny? And I said, not yet. And he said, okay, I'm going to have him get in touch with you. I said, okay. And this is through text. So my voice, I'm not talking, I'm just texting. Johnny texted me. He goes, we want you to do the backstage interviewing. And then he gives me like a script for what we're going to do that night. Oh, and in the meantime, I cut a promo. They asked me to cut a promo for socials. So I did that. I don't know if you saw that or not, but I put that on my socials. Okay. Put that on my socials. Everything was fine. I had to text him back and say, I have no voice.
Oh, no.
Because being a backstage interviewer, you need to speak. And I cannot speak at this point because I was talking like this. And I sounded like a maniac. And I said, what else could go wrong? Like, what else are they going to tell me to do? And I just can't do it. So I said, if you want to unbook me, I totally understand. No heat. I'm a hot mess. I was in Rhode Island and 3 days of blah, 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 blah. And my voice was just shot. My throat was sore. No COVID or anything, but just shot.
Yeah.
I want you to come. We will figure something out. And I was like, okay. I go there. God bless them. They were wonderful. First person I saw was John Cohn. They make me and Guido. They're filming everything because they made that little YouTube video, which was adorable. If you haven't seen it, go over. I don't know if it's on the Vault or the WWE channel. Really cute. All the originals showing up and talking to us. And you could tell my voice is just squeaky. And it was horrible. I go, we were there really early. So I just go to the makeup chair. And the first person that walks in is Shawn Michaels. And I go up to him. And I start, thank you. It's good to see you. And he's like, we're so happy to have you here. The run of the mill. Thank you for coming. It's going to be a great night.
Had you all had much interaction before that? Because I know that sort of you all kind of missed each other in a lot of what you did in your career.
Yeah. So when I did a tour of Japan, the one pay-per-view I was on, Shawn was on. But I did not expect him to remember. We actually went to the pay-per-view. He came with the ECW guys, the Riberas, had a meal.
Oh, okay.
And I brought that up to him and he was like, oh yeah, but I don't think he remembered. We went to Japan. Oh yeah. But yeah, I not much. And then the fake EC dub, I shook his hand when I saw him, and that was pretty much it. So
Yeah.
you know, that was limited. But that night he was super sweet. Like I couldn't ask for a better reception. Everybody was just so sweet. And here I am with no voice, and I still don't know what I'm doing. And so I said to John Cone, I said, what do you want me to do? And they said, well, go visit the doctor, because you need to visit the doctor. So I'm thinking, okay, so I go to the doctor, and he's like, your blood pressure's really high. It's like,
oh no.
I go, listen, if I'm a betting woman, which I am, I said, I guarantee you they're going to put me in the front row and just wave. I said, so you might want to just pass me. I said, because I'm not doing anything physical. It's good and fine. And he was like, well, you're going to have to just sit here until it lowers. So it's like, okay. So I kind of just hung out for like a half hour. And it came down, I wasn't nervous or anything. I don't know what happened, because I'm usually like really good with my blood pressure. But after that, I mingled, I watched the girls in the ring. They were going over everything for the night. I introduced myself to every girl that was there. They were lovely, loved them so much. And then I saw Johnny and finally met him for the first time. And he's just like, we'll just have you stand there. And then Shawn comes walking over, and I apologize profusely. He goes, you're just going to stand there and look pretty. And I said, Shawn, are you sure? And he goes, there's always another time. And I said, yeah, okay. And that's basically what happened in a nutshell. So I kind of like hung out in the back all day. I did a 36-hour fast, because I said, well, if I have to do something, I don't want a full stomach in here. I didn't actually do anything. But I got to watch the show. I got to see old friends. I got to see how it was run. And I got to watch the girls up close and personal, which was so fun. And it was kind of full circle, because that's how I started in ECW. I sat in that arena down further in the same area, but down the line a little bit. But it was just like, here I am again. And
I love it.
It's a good time.
It. See, like watching that on TV, obviously we have no idea that all that unfolds. And
I said, what, honestly, like, am I going to break my leg and then I can't even like stand and wave? Like, what else is going to happen? Thank God it didn't. But, I was just happy to be there. I was happy that they thought of me, because usually when WWE does stuff, like triple threat isn't really the first thing that comes to mind. And, we've gotten left out of a lot of things that they've done in the past. So to get that phone call, I was just like, that's very nice. So I was
it is.
Yeah.
I will say, like, I understand there's some natural cynicism and stuff associated with previous regimes of WWE, but in being there and working some of their shows as media, like I've seen them make the effort to bring in a lot of legends. And not only that, they will create like one sheets and stuff for the younger talent who might not have been alive, like when somebody from the 80s is backstage, who might not know Tito Santana. And they're like, this is who this person is. This is what they accomplished. This is why they are important. You need to treat them like they're important.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, because the girls were just coming up to me. Some of the girls had ECW gear on, which I thought was really cute. And I would ask them, I was like, are you familiar with ECW? Oh, yes, I am. Yes, I am. Now, they're 20 somethings. They went back and they did their homework, I guess, or they got the sheet that you mentioned, either or, but they couldn't have been nicer. And I can tell there was a genuine camaraderie between them. Like, it didn't seem like anyone was really catty. They all seemed to get along, and that's the way it should be. It should be like that for the betterment of the company. And I enjoyed it. It was a long day, which I'm not used to, but I really enjoyed being there. So it was fun.
I'm trying out a new segment that I think works out great for you.
Okay.
It's called Look at This Photograph. And I will apologize if there's exactly. I will apologize if there's anybody in here that you have heat with.
I'll just say next.
But I'll share. We'll see what your feelings are and maybe what memories these conjure up.
Sure.
Here's a good one.
Oh my. So yes,
What a great job with the powder in the eyes. That is an art to do that.
That's a good picture. Yeah, that was. This is a fun. Okay, this is funny because this was a build-up towards the heel turn, which I wasn't privy to initially.
Okay.
I thought that whole time when I was with the Pitbulls, I thought, no, this was after the heel turn. That might have been misguided. That might have been I was with Shane and I missed and then hit him by accident. I don't remember if I was.
I mean, listen, you got no plausible deniability there. That's point blank range,
maybe,
Francine.
okay, so maybe I am with the Pitbulls. I can't remember what this was, but I will say this story. When I was with Gary and Anthony, I was told the whole time by Brian Lee, who you remember, that I was turning on them and going with him.
Yes.
I was going to be his manager. Now, no one told me this. So I'm thinking, okay, I hate this pleather stuff that I'm wearing. And now I have to go with a biker and wear chaps. This is great, but I'll do it because I want to work, right? The whole build up to Shane, we were telling a story the whole time, but I was never brought into it behind the scenes. So I'm kind of in limbo. And I feel like Shane and Paul knew the outcome. And I didn't get it until maybe a week before when I was told about the table spot. And so we're doing all these little things to inch towards him and I pairing up. But I was so naive and still so green because I didn't have anybody to guide me at this point. You know, I'm just trying to listen to everybody and work. And so that might have been part of the buildup towards me actually pairing with Shane. But that's a great picture.
Here's one.
This, so I was at a mall. I can't remember which mall I was at with Bill Apter.
I love it. Bill is my mentor. Bill gave me my start. Bill recommended me for the job that I have now. I will forever be indebted to Bill Apter.
Bill Apter is a beautiful soul. And he called me one day during ECW and he said, would you like to spend the day with me? And we'll walk around. We'll walk around the mall and we're going to take pictures for the magazine. And I said, absolutely.
Wow magazine for sure. I saw those on newsstand shelves.
Yeah.
It was thick, glossy. It was unlike any magazine I'd ever seen before. And without fail, every month, Francine heavily featured in that magazine. Every month.
I had some friends that did the publication. I don't know. But when Wonderful Wooly calls you and says, spend the day with me, you don't say no. Right.
Yeah.
So and I remember we walked around that mall and anything that looked cute, I said, let's take a picture here. And people were like, what is she doing? I had on heels and this dress and an older gentleman following me with a camera. So it was very, very weird back then, but that was a fun day.
I love that. Bill, listen, Bill knows his place in wrestling media. He knows he's the elder statesman. So when there are these big lines at media day, he'll be like, can I just squeeze ahead of 15 of you? And we're like, yeah, Bill, you can. We love you.
He's the best.
He is the best.
Yeah.
Look at this one.
Oh, that's a good one. So
look at that. The double vertical suplex.
Yes. So this was a match at the ECW Arena. It was myself, Jerry Lynn, and Tommy Dreamer against Just Incredible. Maybe, gosh, who was he with? Was it Lance?
I can tell you, man, you wrestled a few matches with Jerry Lynn.
Yeah.
It usually had Francine. It says Francine, Jerry Lynn, and Tommy Dreamer against Beulah, Just Incredible, and Lance Storm. Usually, although
no, Beulah wasn't there at this point.
There was another one. My gosh, let's see here. Francine, Jerry Lynn, and Tommy Dreamer against Tammy Lynn Bitch and the Impact Players.
The Impact Players. That's what I thought that was. Yeah, this is at the arena. And Jerry goes, you want to double team PJ? And I said, sure. And he said, okay. He goes, we're going to do, we're going to do a suplex with them together. And we started doing that on the road and it got such a good pop and reaction. And,
I love that.
Yeah.
I
It was
love
fun when
that.
I did get to wrestle. It was a good time because I had a little experience with that, and not many
Yeah.
people are aware, but I could go back in the day.
You, I remember reading the house show results for like a month solid in '99 as a teenager, and every day it was Francine beats Steve Carino. Francine beats Steve Carino. You were
I
married to him on the road. I love it. You were just whooping
I
his ass
was,
all over the
and
country.
it's so funny you mentioned that because I was just with him in NXT, and I
Yeah,
I told him that night. I said, I want to apologize to you again because anytime I had to, beat up the boys, I felt
yeah.
awful. I actually felt awful because I'm this little bitty girl coming in like RoboCop and just killing people. And like Bubba said, he said sometimes it's believable, but if it's too much, then you have the fans going, "What?"
Yeah.
He said, but the way Paul used you, it was believable because it wasn't like 42 moves in a row. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But I would always apologize. I'd be like, please, I hope you don't resent me because it wasn't me. It wasn't me pitching an idea. Let me go beat
Of
up the whole
course.
male roster. No, that was Paul saying, you're going to get this pop and people are going to love it. And poor Steve kind of just fell into the loop. But
Yeah.
Steve said he loved it because he was relatively new with the company and it gave him a rub that he said he needed. So he didn't mind at all, which made me happy. And him and I were very close friends and still are. So it was a good thing.
I really got into ECW. Like when I saw them on Raw, I was like, "Oh my God, what is this?" And then I finally got to watch it here in Kentucky on TNN. And Steve was such a prominently featured character
Great.
on that show.
Yeah.
And I loved it. Like he was going over to Limp Bizkit concerts and stuff like that. Like all kinds of cool stuff.
It was
I
great.
really liked it.
Yeah, he was one of my favorites because anything that I said, hey, can I do this? Yes. Or
Yeah.
do you want to do this? Yeah, sure. Like he didn't care. Just let's do it.
Here's an interesting one. I actually watched this show over the last week, and I was like, well, I got to add this. Francine, what's going on here? What's going on
This
here?
is my favorite promo of all time that I ever cut. It was a pay-per-view. And
It was.
Paul, it was supposed to be me and Steve doing our verbiage together, but Paul let us make it up. Like Paul was like, okay, this is the theme we're going for. This is, just shoot something, which Paul was great for because verbatim, I can't remember. Most of the time I can't, unless I need to get something specifically over because that's part of the storyline. This one, he let Steve and I just improv. And it turned out hilarious. It's one of my favorite things. And the room that we walked into had that huge sandwich. It was like a 6-foot sandwich, deli sandwich. And I said, I'm going to try and pop the boys and I'm going to pretend this thing in my mouth. I didn't tell anybody I was going to do it. And when they said, roll, I just picked it up and I was trying innuendo probably because, that's what ECW was.
Sure.
But I'm telling you, if you haven't seen that promo, look it up because it is hilarious. And it was myself, Carino,
It's great.
Jack Victory, Just Incredible, Missy Hyatt. And it was hilarious. So good. So good. It's my favorite.
Another great shot. Look at you about to dole out. She's just sitting there like, what do you mean? What do you mean somebody's behind me?
First of all, I loved working with Beulah. 100% loved working with her. I feel like we were the OGs of the cat fight. Like her and I had the best time. So this was a mixed tag. It was Shane and I versus her and Tommy. That cookie sheet was Hat Guy in the front row. If you're an ECW fan, you know who I am. Hawaiian shirt guy, Hat Guy, that whole front row. He had the cookie sheet. So ahead of time, I tell him, take this cookie sheet, show it to me, and I'm going to fight you for it. I'm going to slap you. Your hat's going to fall off your head. Because we used to get some of the guys that were in the crowd, like, into the show. You know what I mean? Yes. And you see me struggling for this cookie sheet. And I finally I smack him, and that gets a pop. And then I climb up, and I hit her with it. And I think right after that, Dreamer comes up behind me and does the coochie claw.
Oh God.
So this was the dreaded cookie sheet that we love to use so much. But another great mixed tag. I believe that one, Shane got hit with a bottle by a fan.
Okay.
And went nuts. I mean, you could see in the footage, you see the fan go after him, and then Tommy sees him trying to fight the fan, so he grabs Shane and like gets him back to safety, and then Atlas just swarms the guy and gets him out of there. So not the first time, not the last time we were ever attacked.
I'm interested to see if you know what this, it's more of a screenshot than a photo.
Okay.
But this one.
Yes, I do remember this. This was the documentary.
Incredible documentary. Jeremy Borash did.
Jeremy Borash and Shane were behind this one. What was that called?
Forever Hardcore.
Forever Hardcore. That's right. I had to go to Nashville, and I think that was at Jeremy's apartment. They took me to his apartment and then took me to a hotel afterwards. But yeah, that was to counter the one that WWE did that left all of us out. So
yes,
whoever was left out of that one was profiled on this one, and I got to be profiled. So
how did you feel about being left out of that first one? I know they had an awful lot of people under contract then, so they felt like, oh, well, we can use this. And of course, there's a lot of rewriting history and the like, but I loved Forever Hardcore because I did not come along until years into ECW. So getting to see all these early stories directly from you guys were incredible.
Yeah, and it goes back to what I said at the beginning of the interview. It's like a lot of times WWE left us out of things. And like you said, they used the people who were already there. And so you saw the same guys and girls being used for all these videos, and we're just like, wow, it would have been nice if they could have got a different perspective once in a while.
For sure.
Then when this came out, it was like, okay, this is your chance to tell your side of the story that they didn't let you have a voice on. And so we were just like, okay. And this one was really good because, like I said, you saw a lot of the guys that you didn't see before.
I remembered, like, on that documentary, there were some things that Shane was saying that you were debunking. And obviously now you guys, I mean, I see you guys on the convention scene together all the time now. It didn't seem like it was the case back then.
No, there was a falling out between Shane and I before he left for WCW. I don't want to get into the whole why we fell out because it's no one's business, but there was a time where we had to work together and we weren't speaking, and that was rough. And so, he has apologized to me and, said he's not the same person as he was before. I feel bad because we lost a lot of years because he was like my best friend in the business. But we talked it over and he did say he was wrong, which I was just like, in my, like when you're a female and you don't have seniority, you really have to bite your tongue a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And I couldn't be as vocal as I wanted to be back then. But now, having like 31 years in the business, I'm like, yeah, well, this is what happened and blah, blah, blah. So we had to sit down and we talked about everything. And we've been good for years now because this was falling out a long time ago. But he is one of my best friends. I talk to him several times a week. And, all this time later, still doing loops with him and Sandman and Jerry and my friends is the biggest blessing I can ask for. But, back then when I was filming that, I did not hear his side. So I was just getting Jeremy go, well, he said, blah, 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 blah. And I like,
of course.
Okay, well, here's what I'm going to say. And it was like, they would show me, they would show him, they would show me, they would show him, but they never told the backstory. So everybody to this day is like, well, what were you fighting about? And I'm just like, don't worry about it. It's good.
It made for good documentary footage.
It left you a little confused, but when he did call me to do his series of shows, I said, it was the first time I had spoken to him in like a couple years. And I was like, oh, it's going to be like Carrie when she wins prom queen and you're going to drop the blood on my head and I'm scared to come there. And he's like, no, we would never do that. And I remember showing up at the arena and they filmed it, which was so awkward because I was just like, okay, it's bad enough I haven't talked to him in a long time. Now you're going to film it and put it on the DVD. And they did. And I remember walking in the room and I'm looking for the pail of blood. I'm looking like, are you going to get me? And he came up and extended his arms and we hugged and talked and that was that. So sometimes you just have to nip it in the bud.
Of course.
But at that time, I didn't think I was allowed to. Like I was so afraid I was going to get heat for voicing opinions.
Yeah.
So, but we got it done.
I've always been interested in the process, if any, that you guys, especially you, needed to go through for the video game, the ECW games that got released. Which I played the hell out of. They don't age well. The controls are insane on there. But like, what all did you need to do in order to make that a reality?
So we went. I guess we went to Acclaim Studios, and I remember they were like, "Well, wear what you're gonna wear in the video game." They took a ton of pictures. And then I remember they put us in front of a microphone and the guy was like, okay, pretend you're throwing up. And I'd say, okay, bleh. And he'd go, okay, more. You're projectile vomiting. Bleh, bleh. And then more. Okay, pretend you just got punched in the gut. Ooh, all right, do it again. Ooh. I can't tell you how many times you had to do that kind of stuff.
Oh
they
my
would
God.
you and then record your voice. And those are, say your catchphrase. Okay, I am the queen of extreme. Say this. Okay, I'll say that. That was the whole day. And I remember there was a lunch for us and we ate lunch. And then it was mostly pictures. Some people did motion capture for it. And you had to do your entrance, you had to walk and stuff like that. And then you did the voiceovers. So it was a fun day. And I never thought I'd be in a video game. So
it's pretty incredible.
Pretty cool.
ECW also had a really great action figure line. And I know that one of you didn't come out because I actively collect those because of Cardona and Brian Myers.
Okay.
Was there any conversation about an action figure possibly happening for you?
Yes. So when they came and was telling everybody who's getting an action figure, they said, Francine, you're getting an action figure. And I was oh my God, I'm so excited. Right. And so we didn't have the machine, the scanner. It was more like they would take pictures. So I had to stand there again and they were taking fronts and backs and sides.
Those guys were artists. The guys that made those figures, like, that's one of the things I love about them was they weren't scans. Like these guys were going out and hand creating these models, which was incredible.
Yeah. And I remember we were in the back of the, not the main locker room, but there was another room. And I remember standing there and the man was like, okay, taking my picture and writing stats, how tall are you? What's your weight? Blah, blah, blah. Writing all this stuff down. And then like time had passed and the figures come out. And I'm like, where am I? Where's mine? And the guy goes, oh, we decided women don't sell. The women's figures won't sell. And I just remember it was like Charlie Brown getting a rock at Halloween. I was like, oh man, like really? Because like, if you think about it, a wrestling fan will buy a female and a male if they're paired up together but I guess in the 90s, I don't know how that worked back then. If they just thought like kids played with figures, because it wasn't the way it is now.
Yes.
That I know of. I mean, I see all these figures, men, in their 30s and 40s collecting these action figures. I didn't know that was a thing until I met Brian and Matt and they discussed it with me. I was like, really? People do this? In the 90s, did they even do that? I don't know. But
not nearly as much. Like, and I didn't until the pandemic and I was bored and I watched their show and they were at this enormous toy store and I was like, you know what? Next time I'm on the road, I'll hit it up. Well, it was like an hour from me. So I went to that place and I think I saw the Taz figure they released and I was like, this is the ECW Taz figure is one of the coolest figures I've ever seen. It looked amazing. So I've made like collecting ECW ones my thing. And I was like, well, where's Francine? Where
Mhm.
are these people who were main characters on the ECW TV show? Like,
Yeah.
you weren't getting through an episode of TV without seeing Francine, Dawn Marie, Beulah, Tammy Sitcha at some point. Like,
Yeah.
so I'm shocked that they said that. But have they ever, has like Mattel or anybody ever hit you up, or WDB, about the possibility of doing a figure in the future? Because they got figures for the fucking Goon and stuff right now. Like, where's the Francine figure?
Yeah. So when I worked there under contract in 2006 for respectfully the fake ECW, I was
Yeah.
scanned. And they
Okay.
were like, let's scan you. So I said, great. And I'm like, wow, I'm never used, right? Am I getting a figure? This is crazy. And then nothing ever came of it. No figure
Yeah.
ever came of it. So they have my scan.
It's a completely different company now, though. Jack's Pacific doesn't do it
Yeah,
anymore.
I guess so. So, I mean, I would be more than happy to get a Legends deal and have them
Yeah.
scan me for a Mattel figure for
There you
sure.
go.
I mean, I didn't get my first figure till I was 49 years old, and that was from Figures Toys.
Figures Toy, yeah.
Yeah, and that was my first figure ever. So that, I mean, people say it's the worst figure that they've ever seen, and I'm just like, look, that's always
I
gonna
have as many as you. Look at that one right back there.
see
Oh
that?
my God.
Is that a Funko Pop or is that a figure?
It's a figure that my business partner had made for me, and then
Aw.
a fan made that one.
Oh, look at
There
you.
you go.
See?
There you go. I should not have more figures than Francine. What's the deal?
Well, here's the thing. Figures Toy Company, that's my first figure.
Uh-huh.
And then my good friends Brian and Matt made my little micro brawler.
Oh yeah.
I've
I've seen that.
I have two major bendies, variant and non-variant with the blood, which is
Oh,
special.
nice. Love that.
And Zombie Sailor has
He's so
put out,
talented.
oh my God, this figure. Have you not seen it?
I haven't.
Oh my God, it's beautiful. I'm gonna have to send it to you.
I'm looking right now at the major bendies, which again, I love those guys. I think they'd be great.
The major bendies, and then I'm wondering if it's on my Twitter. There's somebody that keeps asking.
Oh, I'm looking at it right now. Oh, that's a great figure.
Do you see it?
That is a great figure.
It's
Yes.
the black dress that you just saw with the powder. That's
Shane.
the one. Yeah.
Yeah, I see it next to Shane, and they even got the tassels on Shane's boots. That's
Yes,
so cool.
it's great. It's great. There's nail polish on my toes. Like, it's so good.
Oh my gosh, there is. Like, I mean, that guy is so talented.
Josh is very talented. Yeah. So I think hopefully that comes out by WrestleMania. I can't say it will, but that's what I'm hoping for.
Gonna show the audience here.
Yeah.
Look at that. What a great figure.
Really good. Really, really good work. So
phenomenal.
I'm excited. That'll be my next one to come out. And who knows what's down the line? I'm open to anything, because why wouldn't you be?
Of course.
Yeah.
So I've got in my possession, it's almost like, I wouldn't call it bootleg, sort of bootleg, but it's the original presentation of the ECW and TNA shows, complete with like the original music, like some of the commercials. But the thing that hits me is these hotline reads, Francine. Like, listen, us dirt sheets get a bad rap, but like, you cut to a commercial and you got Paul Heyman going, "Guess who's screwing who in WCW?"
I know, it's terrible.
I'm like,
right?
Damn, what do I do that's so bad?
No.
1-900 run for ECW was way wilder.
That was the original clickbait.
It was. I was like, damn, what's going on here?
Yeah.
And
I know. I never called because I wasn't going to pay the fees to know who was screwing who in WCW. But there were some doozies, and I'm sure people called the hotline all the time. But it's hilarious. I look back at some of that stuff, and I'm just like, how the hell did we get away with it?
It was nuts. Did they ever have you do like promos or anything? Because I remember, or for the hotline, because I remembered I would call in and you would just, it was literally the same as like a social media promo these days. And you would just call and hear Shawn Michaels or somebody talk their trash on the WWF hotline.
Okay. Yeah. I might have. I did so many things that I don't know if they ever aired or they didn't air. You have to do things for different affiliates in different cities. So there were a lot of things that I cut for them that I've never even seen before. And that's why I was excited about the Vault, the WWE Vault.
Oh, yes.
That was ECW week. And I said it on my podcast. I said the one thing I would love to see are like bloopers or backstage segments that we've never seen before, because there's so much that never made air. And the week after I aired and I'm not saying I triggered them, but the week after I aired my podcast, it was like stuff that you never seen backstage ECWs. And I was like, wow, this is so cool. Because again, no one has ever seen that kind of stuff. And you had the fans cutting promos and it was crazy.
That's my favorite part of WWE Vault, because that's what I loved about the documentary stuff. Like, if it was making broadcast on TV in the 90s and 2000s, I had already seen it. Like, I watched every second of it there was. So to see stuff like that was so cool. And it's clear WWE is largely out of the tape library acquisition and trying to make new documentaries like about ECW or AWA. So to see this
stuff
on YouTube is just fantastic. I really, really love it.
Yeah.
I remember.
Go ahead.
No, go on. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say a couple weeks ago, they had aired the first ever WWE/ECW Arena show, the house show, the only one we ever did there. So, Chad and I thought it would be interesting if we did a watch along to it.
Yeah.
I was on that show, right? So we built this up, join us, blah, blah, blah. And then Chad got the flu. So I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to go on there by myself. We'll just cancel it. No big deal. But I did watch live with everyone else, and they cut the girls' segment.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And I was like, thank God I didn't do the watch along. How embarrassing. Like, people are probably here to see me because it's my channel. And then all they showed was like a 15-second promo that I cut in the beginning. And that was it. And we're trying to figure out, like, is it because we were in thong bikinis? Is that
probably
too extreme for this day and age? But they'll show lesbian kisses on.
True.
So I didn't get why we were cut out of it, but like the whole show was chopped. It wasn't like full matches, but yeah, they cut the girls like Kelly and I completely out of the picture. And I was just like, really? Like, it's so weird.
How are you liking doing YouTube stuff? I know you've done it for a while, but like, I love your channel. You all do a bunch of clips. You do live streams. You, of course, got the podcast, things like that. You all do an awful lot of stuff. I know that I've seen Sandman pop up on there. I've seen all kinds of people just show up on your channel. How has that been for you?
It's good. I mean, I've been doing YouTube now for 5 years. And I've been working with iHeartRadio for the last year. This will be my second year with them. And it's good. It's a slow climb. But the most frustrating thing is I didn't know you had a podcast. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I promote the hell out of it. Like, how do you not know, But I mean, I don't know when this is going to air, but like tomorrow I have an ECW original coming on that I've never interviewed before.
Okay.
That hadn't really been heard of that much lately. So really excited. I sat down with him and we had to do 2 parts because it was long. But the archive, I mean, I've had most of the guys from the locker room on the show.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's fun because I don't like to be that interviewer who says, well, who trained you and how did you start? I want to be the interviewer because I know you so well. Let's tell some road stories and let's tell some ridiculous stuff that no one ever knows. You know what I mean? That only you and I know, and now we can share to the world because we're allowed to. And that's what my interviews are pretty much based on, if I know you. I've had people on that I really didn't know that I was curious about their background. So, a little bit of the wrestling stuff, but then I'm always like, can we hear a good road story? So I like to keep it very light. I don't like to bury anybody. It's just a good time, good vibes. And I enjoy it. And
I love Chad as well. Chad's one of the OGs of wrestling podcasting. Like, there's a whole lot of people that would not have the ease of access of interviews if he had not sort of paved the way in a lot of senses, because I remember he was one of the first getting high level interviews, like, period, in wrestling podcasting.
Yeah. Well, he was working with Shane on the Triple Threat podcast. And he had contacted me because I think Shane was in like Australia. And he said, would you stand in for Shane?
I love that.
And I said, sure. So I did it with him and John the one time. And then like a little time had gone by, and I always said to myself, I'm never going to have a podcast because everybody has a podcast. And what's going to make me different from you, you know? So he had called me out of the blue and he's like, do you want to do a podcast with me? And I said, no, point blank. Nope, not interested. And he says, it doesn't have to be wrestling. It could be a lifestyle podcast. We could talk about everything. And that was intriguing to me because like, I'm a mom, I'm a wife, you know, I do Disney. There's certain things that I love that I felt like I can put them all into one basket and talk about whatever I wanted that day. It's very heavy on wrestling though, because that's what people want to hear. But you know, I think having a woman's perspective is kind of unique because there are women out there that do podcasting, but there's not many that are involved in wrestling. There's well over probably 1,000 guys that are out there trying to do a Raw report or whatever. And it's kind of like, okay, why click mine? So I try to keep it a little different. That's why I like to do the interviews. I like to do a little bit off script and talk about personal things with myself and my family and just keep it lighthearted. You know, I just want to have a good time at this stage.
Of course.
Stress-free, have fun. And that's what it's about. Yeah.
I had mentioned the documentaries and like how and when I became a fan of ECW, and it was a lot later than a lot of things happened. So I'm watching that documentary and I see them talking about Bill Alfonso maybe trying to funnel talent to WCW and all that. What were your thoughts when that happened? Because we heard like Paul's thoughts and we heard that he did that match and got all bloody and as a make good, but
saved his job.
Yeah, what were like your thoughts when you're hearing about that?
So it's funny you mentioned this because I had Todd Gordon on my show. Okay. And I had said to Todd, I want you to tell a story that no one else knows. Okay, that you have not shared, because he had just written his book and he was going around, you know, doing the circuit. Sure. And I said, if you were on other podcasts, don't rehash a story that you already told. I want something no one knows. He said, well, I saved this one for you. He told this, and you can go back and listen to cheap plug, go to ECW Diva Francine ! On YouTube. He told
link in the description, friends.
Thank you. He told the mole story. And even I didn't know. I didn't know it. And you see, while he's telling this story, my jaw hits the floor because I was not privy to any of this. I only knew what Paul told us, but Todd has a completely different story.
Interesting.
So, and I would love to go over it with you now, but I want people to
people should check that out. People should check it out on your channel.
I had no clue that any of this happened. It blew my mind. And actually other podcasters, after I aired that, they were mad at Todd for not giving them the story. And Todd's like, listen, Francine started with me. I had to save it for her. And I was like, thank you. It's amazing.
I love it.
It's amazing, Shawn. It blew my mind. It is such a contradictory as to what I think what Paul states.
Of course, yeah.
Todd has such a different view. Now, who do you believe? That's up to you to decide. But I never heard this before.
I'm going to go back. I admittedly did not watch that episode. I remember I watched recently Rhino, Heath Slater, a couple other ones that you had done.
Yeah, they're older, but look up Todd. You're going to be like, what? WTF, like what is happening? Because that's how I felt, and I was there and I didn't know.
Yeah.
So I was flabbergasted when this happened. It was crazy.
I'm always interested, what is the hardest you've been hit in the ring or the most painful thing you've experienced in the ring?
So I think this wasn't intentional. And I know this for a fact because he was
usually the case in these. People are always like, listen, I know they didn't mean to.
No.
Really.
There was no heat. ever with this gentleman, Bam Bam Bigelow.
Oh,
I loved
lovely
him
guy.
like an older brother, such a sweetheart and a teddy bear. I had to do, I believe it was a run-in or something on him. I did something to him, or maybe I was already out there, but I had to get in there. And I said to him, what do you want to do to me? And he said, I'll think of something. Don't worry about it. And I trust the guys, right? So I'm just like, okay, do I have to look for anything? He goes, no, don't, just follow my lead. Okay, fine, right? So I see my cue and I get in there and he picks me up. Now I had just got my boobs done. I've had one breast augmentation, right? And now I don't have them anymore. That's just me now. But back then, I think I was like a month and a half in, right? Just got my boobs done. I get in the ring. He picks me up and presses me over his head.
No.
So
Oh,
I'm
no.
like 10 feet in the air. And I'm like, I'm saying to myself, oh my God, what is he going to do to me? I have no clue. And he just dumps me to the side. And I knew I fell in like 3 seconds, but it was the longest 3 seconds of my life. And I'm trying to pivot so I take a back
Yes.
bump. Because I'm like, okay, I'm going to bust. I just got, they were $6,000. I just bought them. I don't want to, I end up landing on my hip. And Paul never aired that because when I landed, you saw it pop out and pop back in. It was disgusting. We must have watched it 10 times at the studio. He didn't air it.
Oh
So
my gosh.
I laid there and people thought I was selling, but I couldn't move my left side because I had broken my pelvis in 2 places.
Oh no.
So I get to the back and they took me right into the little dressing room. That was like the triple threat. It was right under the steps. It was that little tiny, if you know, the little tiny cubby hole. Guys, triple threat used to change in there. There was a table. They put me on the table. And I was crying because the pain was excruciating. And Paul came in and he says, ambulance, you got to go. And I said, I'm not going. And he said, you have to go. And I said, Paul, I am not going to the hospital. And he said, if you can walk up those steps, which was the wooden staircase that he did the speech on, if you guys remember Beyond the Mat, he stood on those wooden stairs. He said, if you can walk up to the top of those steps, you don't have to go to the hospital. I go, yeah, all right. I stood up and I fell. I couldn't put any pressure on my left side. So Dr. Mark Allen, who was the podiatrist that was our doctor in the back.
Oh my gosh.
He came with me and got the x-rays. Yeah, I fractured it in 2 places. And I was on crutches for like 7 weeks. They gave me morphine, I think, and Dilaudid, and they sent me back. And I didn't miss a week of work. I worked on crutches. And it was a legit, broken pelvis. So that was
That'd be brutal.
Really painful. And then like regular bumps, it was total elimination. I hated doing that. God bless Cronus, but his fat ass landed on my face every single time. And I was just like,
it was so brutal every time because you were so little.
Yeah,
you were
that was
so
a rough
little.
One.
Oh my God. And like, listen, that leg sweep that he does or that they did, that was smooth too.
Perry went low, Cronus went high, and Cronus had such a nice vertical leap, but he would land. Cronus had a big ass.
He was a meaty son of a bitch.
He was a big dude. Man. And he would always land right around my face. So like you're bumping your head and then you're getting smacked in the face by an ass cheek every single time. And I was just like, I love you, Cronus, but you're killing me.
You had mentioned Beyond the Mat. Were cameras like around a lot for that, or just kind of like here and there? Because that's an all-time favorite of mine as well.
Yeah, they were around a lot. I had Barry Blaustein on my show, and I interviewed him, and he was like, he goes, "You were one of the only people that was nice to me." Because you got to remember, Shawn, back then, we were trying to keep kayfabe alive. So you didn't see what you see today. You didn't see the camaraderie between the boys. Heels were heels and baby faces were baby faces. And we didn't have social media, so you didn't see a lot of what on behind the scenes and stuff. So when you have those cameras back there and they're following you around and it's a pay-per-view and you're trying to go over your match and then you feel this And the boys were like, just get the F out of here. Like constantly
Yeah.
holler. And I felt bad for Barry because I knew he was just trying to get his doc done. But like people would be screaming at him, like, get away from us. Like we're going over stuff because we were trying to keep. I think that's the difference between our footage and like the WWF footage at the time. The WWF lot, and Barry even said this, they were way more friendly because we were trying to keep things kayfabe. And they were there a lot. And they had come to a couple shows. And I mean, they got their footage. It was an excellent documentary, but I can understand both sides. You know, I understand what Barry was trying to do, and I also understand what the boys were trying to do.
So as we wrap up, like I've got so many more things to ask you about, but I want to have you on again because this has been phenomenal. Tell the people where they can find you, support you, follow you. Of course, we're going to have links in the description below, especially to her YouTube channel, which has just an infinite amount of great insight on it.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, across the board on social media, you can find me at ECW Diva Francine. I believe that's on Instagram, on X. Queen of Extreme, maybe Francine on Facebook. I don't know the exact name. Chad runs that one. And then YouTube is ECW Diva Francine ! iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcast. Eyes Up Here with Francine. New episodes on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 3:01 a.m. So,
Francine, I want to thank you so much. This has been an interview that I've wanted to do forever. One of my favorites to watch in ECW. I just want to thank you so much for doing this.
I loved coming, and hopefully we could do it again because there's so much more to talk about. But you're doing a great job. I love your coverage, and I'm a Fightful faithful.
You.
So
yeah. I appreciate it. I appreciate it so much.
Absolutely.
Until next time, my friends, we're out. Buying pay-per-views on NordVPN.com/Fightful is going to enhance your pay-per-view buying process. Now, one subscription to NordVPN has so many different benefits, but if you're a big pay-per-view buyer like myself, UFC, boxing, pro wrestling, all that good stuff, any combination of the three, if they're doing a fight circus or something like that, this subscription will pay for itself after 1 or 2 pay-per-view buys. Change your virtual location, pay for it at the prices that other people are paying for it in the UK, in Australia, etc., etc. And you can get different interfaces. Maybe you don't like Peacock and you want to check out the WWE Network the way that it used to be, the way that it was designed to be, the easy navigation, so on and so forth. Maybe you want to watch AEW without commercials. Maybe there's some other overseas services that you can't subscribe to and you want access to them. NordVPN.com/Fightful gives you that with a great deal and a 30-day money-back guarantee. Even better, 24/7 tech support, so if you have trouble navigating any of it, they can help you out. Fastest VPN on the planet, NordVPN.com/Fightful.